What's going on, guys? I hope you're having the best day of your life. My name is Nick.
And my name is Carmen,
This is the Because of Why podcast.
where we talk about self development and mindset and just everything in between. And this is for anyone and everyone who wants to grow.
Let's grow! There you go.
Your small legs. Okay, so let's talk about it. This leads perfectly right into it.
What?
How to overcome imposter syndrome. When have you ever felt? Have you ever felt? I'm not even gonna ask you because I literally sat there while you had a mental breakdown.
Hey, you too.
Well, tell us a little bit about your experience with imposter syndrome.
I gotta think about this one.
You're like, which one do I pick?
No. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I can see that in business. When we first started, it felt like we were going somewhere, but in reality, we weren't going anywhere. It felt like we were going on a treadmill, but we were going backwards at the same time. It felt like I was working on myself so much, but the business wasn't showing any results. So I was like, am I doing anything right? I'm the best version of myself today. What's going on? I mean, I guess that's imposter syndrome.
What time are you talking about? Because I feel like
The beginning when we started our business. Because of why?
Because of why specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was just like, hey, I'm going to be my best self. I read all these books. I listened to David Goggins, all these motivational messages, YouTube videos. And they're fine, they're great, but motivation lasts, so long. And I was just like, hey, I'm a mindset coach, but I'm having my own issues and problems. So I don't feel like a mindset coach.
I feel like, and again, I feel like this happens in every career, not just in entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But I realize that in entrepreneurs it happens a lot because it's kind of like I call it the artist syndrome. I like it to say something a little bit more cool. Like
You make shit up.
But it makes sense. Listen, as an artist, you want to do your art, but artists are business owners. You have to sell your art. You have to sell the product.
Yeah.
Right? So, but as an artist, you go in, I'm gonna, I have this beautiful art. I'm doing what I love, right? Everybody in business is like, I'm doing what I'm loving, and I want to help people. But then you forget that you have to not just work. What is it? It's not just work in the business, but on the business.
Is it that way? Or is it the other
No.
way?
You're working in the business because you love what you're doing, but you're not necessarily working on the business, like the back end. Like I believe that it's just when you work so much in the business, it's like, it's going, you're getting momentum, you're doing all the cool stuff, right? You're meeting people, you're networking, but then it's like the background is getting messy, right? Like you don't understand how to do your taxes, or you're not doing your bookkeeping correctly, or you're not understanding your profit loss. And so when that stuff starts to catch up, then you're like, fuck, am I really even doing it right? Right? And so I feel like that's when imposter syndrome happens, when you're like, so am I even making money? Am I even impacting anybody?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Because it's like, no matter what you do, I feel like it's like a two-parter, but like when you sign the contract of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be whatever it is that you're going to be, you forget that there are different parts than just the dream, right? It's like when you love something so much, but you have to keep loving it even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when you're doing the parts that you don't want to.
Let me ask you a question, and I hope this makes sense. Okay? I want to take a step back to where you were talking about the fact that you may feel like an imposter when you say, oh, I'm not making enough impact. But in reality, you are. Do you see that as selfish?
I think that there are different versions. I feel like there's the version of you're only doing it because you want to feel something. And then there's the version of you can do better, but you can acknowledge the fact that you've made an impact, but you just want to do more. Because I feel like I feel like that's something.
So raising your standards.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not talked about enough in the sense of differentiating it. Like people, I feel like put it all in one bucket, and it's like if you look at the way you're feeling, if you're really feeling like you're not making an impact in whatever it is that you're doing, ask yourself, is it that I literally haven't made an impact, or not enough that I want to make more? Or is it that you just want to, you've been expecting something in return? Like, look at me, I just gave this homeless person $1. Why isn't, I don't know, God giving me $10 billion back? Right? Are you just doing something and expecting something back, which makes you feel like, did I just not impact enough to receive something? Right? So are you expecting, or is, right, like, where is your intention? Because I feel like that can solve that kind of issue of, oh, I'm just not making an impact. Because in reality, no matter what you're doing, you are making an impact. But if your intentions are correct, you can always do better, but it shouldn't have that weight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like weight comes from bad intentions. And if you reiterate or remind yourself, what did I walk in this for what reason? Then you're you're repurposing yourself. You're reminding yourself why, because of why. It's always back to the why. Why am I doing this? Because if I was doing this to make every impact I can every day, and I've been doing that, but I know I can do more, I've already done some impact, but now I can just do more. Right? So now you're focusing, right? It's kind of that difference that we talked about, right? And nothing wrong with therapy or counseling, but they focus a lot on the past. But as coaches, we focus on the now. What can we do right now with what we have to make something better in the future? Of course, there's problems in our past, but if we work on what we are right now, what we have, and we turn the seed into a little sprout and then a blossom and then whatever else it turns into, a fruit or whatever, it's like, it's the process, right? It's like, you can't go back and edit your past. It's not a video or a podcast.
So when people feel like they're having imposter syndrome, where they say they are something, but they don't feel the fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I feel it relates to when I was on a call with one of the twins, I believe it was Evan Macklin with Andy Elliott. He was talking about the fact how, my mind just went blank.
You know, you were saying it earlier. You asked if it was selfish, and the way you stated it as we're talking about it, it almost seems like it. It's almost like, and you know, I feel like if, and this might sound a little like controversial, but maybe when you are feeling imposter syndrome, maybe you are being, in a sense, selfish. Because again, like I said, are you looking for something in return? Or are you genuinely looking to make an impact? Or, you know, I mean, I don't necessarily know the answer, but I do know that when I'm in a state of, where am I? Am I supposed to be here? I remind myself why I'm there and my intention behind that, and it always puts me back in that kind of, you know, go-getting state, like I'm ready.
You know, I feel we put labels, like the same label on everything. And what I mean by that is, that's what I was trying to get back to earlier. The thought came back as you were speaking and reminded me. When we raise our standards, we're like, hey, I'm not making the level of impact I want to make. And we're like, oh, I feel imposter syndrome. This is not me. I don't feel that level of fulfillment. Maybe we're just raising our standards, but we label it as imposter syndrome. And what I was saying earlier, as Evan Macklin was talking about, when you get on stage or when you speak in front of people, everyone says, oh, he's just nervous. They're just nervous. No, you're excited. You can't contain it. You don't know what to do. But people call that nervous. They label us nervous. So then what do? You end up shying away in the corner. You start mumbling. You start stuttering. And I feel it's just the wrong label. When you're experiencing something else, but all you know is this one label, the imposter syndrome. When in reality, you're just like, I'm raising my standards, which is a good thing. But then it starts to become selfish when you start that self-destruct mode.
Yeah.
Where everything just starts funneling down because you didn't get that certain result.
Yeah.
But I believe it's just that certain label. Like when you're feeling down, when you're feeling sad, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're depressed.
Yeah.
But it's just, everyone now has just found a trigger word that they stick with, that they hear everywhere, and that's what they call themselves. That's what they label themselves as, and then that becomes their identity.
Or I feel like they've heard it from someone, and you know, someone tells you the symptoms of them, and then you
like
feel.
Google.
Oh my gosh! If I listen to Google, I'd have every cancer, which I don't. I'm very healthy. But that kind of reminds me, right? I made a blog not too long ago about how parents introduce you what they believe you are,
Mm.
right? Like the typical one is, you know, they walk up and this person's like, "Oh, hi" to the kid, and the parents like, "Oh, they're shy." You know, Nick is shy. He's not gonna answer. His
I hate
name
that
is
shit.
Nick,
Yeah.
and I wrote a oh, it wasn't a blog. It was actually a post where I was like remaking, like no, like restating like what you should say. And it's like, imagine if you went up and instead, you know, like maybe they felt a little timid or something, but you went and said, "Who, this guy? Oh, he's confident. Why don't you introduce yourself?"
Mm.
Imagine that intro to a kid, right?
And it's the energy you put behind it.
Exactly. And so even if you feel like your kid may feel timid, or I mean, any person really, it's like if you yourself and your words will affect another person just as much as you affect yourself by telling yourself them, right? If you look in the mirror and you're just constantly like, you know, oh man, I'm so ugly, I'm so fat, I'm so this and this and this. Like one thing is admitting, okay, you know, I've gained weight, you know, I'm picking at my skin or I'm doing something. But another thing is acknowledging, like, oh, I can work on this. You know, I can go to the gym. I can do this. I can do that. How do you become, okay, if I feel shy right now, instead just, right, accentuate.
Mm-hmm.
I can work on my communication skills. I can work on my social skills, right? Like, I feel like there's that second part where now we go into the affirmation talk, right?
All right,
It's
stop. That was my next question. Because I know
Yeah.
this is something that you like talking about. I was going to say, how does imposter syndrome relate to affirmations? I want to hear your input
So,
on this.
so I actually have a really strong belief that a lot of people disagree with, actually. And that's that I don't think affirmations are enough. I don't think that they're as powerful as they can be. I mean, I think it's a great level one step of being a more positive person and, you know, believing in yourself, but when you're really ready to level up, like you need to learn how to really speak to yourself, right? And I feel like as humans, we look for the easy way out too often. And that's where I feel like affirmations came from, or like, I am confident, I am proud, I am beautiful, I am smart. Great. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to take 6 months, say it every day, 20 times a day, and you'll become smart, beautiful, whatever. It doesn't matter. But
Do you truly
what if,
believe it?
well, that, but also imagine if instead you stood in the mirror and you had a conversation with yourself. Hey, Carmen, you are fucking beautiful. You get up every day in the morning, you wash your face, you take care of your skin, you know, you eat healthy food to make sure that you're nourished and you work
You
out
have a
every
beautiful
day.
smile.
Thank you. But it's that stuff, right? It's like you're feeding more of your effort. It's just like what we talk about, right? It's effort based praise, just like you would a child, you would yourself. So don't be lazy. Don't just say 3 words. Conversate with yourself. Explain to yourself all the work you're putting in to see the results that you want to see, right? If we're speaking in the present tense, I'm confident. How did you get confident? Carmen, you are doing so well. You have been working on your communication. You've been doing your lessons. You've been talking to new people. You've been working on your social skills. You're learning something new every day so that you can speak to more people fluently and confidently, right? I feel like that is so much more powerful than I am confident.
It's
You know, like
exactly,
I'm just like,
dude,
I'm
that's
confident.
exactly what Alex Hermosi was saying.
Yeah.
When people say these affirmations and shit, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's like a level one, and it may make you feel good, but how much do you really believe that?
Yeah.
And the way you really build that confidence is stacking those wins, those small
Exactly.
wins, and it's your undeniable proof that you can do it and that you can be better and that you can build it.
Yeah.
But when
And
you just say to yourself, I'm confident, your mind is gonna be like, dude, you're really not. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your body. Look at how you talk to yourself. Look how you treat yourself. Are you really confident? And then you start spiraling down and you
but
question yourself.
look at that, right? Like you leave the space to question yourself. So why? Because you no longer gave yourself actions. So you're going to find the actions. And our minds, what is the easiest thing to do? Again, our minds are wired to find the easiest thing, the safest thing,
Yeah.
right? And so, what is the easiest, safest thing? How can I
Comfort.
comfort myself in what hurts me?
Guys, what's the biggest drug in the world?
It's fucking comfort. And then coffee, but then comfort. No,
Karma's my
actually,
drug.
just a quick thing. You're not addicted to your coffee. Most likely, you're addicted to the fact that it's part of your routine.
Ooh, dude, I can relate to that. I know we're going off topic, but I want to talk about that because
It's
I
part
used to
of
drink
this.
at least like 8 cups of coffee a day, and I'd be wired. I'm like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. I have these crash times, and then when we went to Limitless Arena in Utah, I had like 1 cup of coffee a day, and I had a migraine.
Okay, this dude was like, he looked like crack withdrawals. Okay, we did a 6 hour layover from 1 in the morning to
Denver.
to like 6, 7 in the morning, and I had to stay up because he couldn't stay up. Like I thought we were gonna die because I was like, dude, I'm half awake. This dude's half awake. We're either getting robbed or like I don't know what's gonna go on, and I don't care anymore at this point.
Fun layovers. Anyways, it was like I couldn't survive on 1 cup of coffee a day, and now the max amount of coffee I have a day is twice. And
that's not 8. You're like, I just take 2 sniffs.
All right. Anyways, back to imposter syndrome. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time when you were a teenager that you had imposter syndrome. When was a moment? Because I know you were a badass. You kicked ass. You were in jiu-jitsu. You did martial arts. You're in school. When did you feel like an imposter syndrome? You're moving weird. I know you feel something.
Well,
you hear my lip fart?
No. I'll be completely honest. I think my ego was too big to feel imposter syndrome. I was actually thinking about this today, you know, because I always ask myself. My mom was like my biggest like checker, right? She put me in check. Yeah, and I appreciate her a lot for that because she'd always tell me like, Carmen, your ego's too big. Carmen, knock down your ego. Carmen, sit it down. And I would just be like, what is she talking about? Obviously, I wouldn't talk back to my mom, but I'd be like, what is she talking about? You know, like, I'm humble. I shake the hand of my competitor. I hug my competitor. I put them on the same platform with me when I win first place. Like, I'm bringing them with me. You know, like, I don't care if I win. I love the sport, this and that. But it's the parts of you that want to deny it that the ego really creeps.
Isn't that exactly what a coach does? That outside perspective that you do not see. And I just wanted to state that because sometimes I have that where you're like, Nick, you talk a lot about this, and then I'm not doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And you're like, no, you're not. Yeah. If someone's telling you from an outside perspective, you know, they may not be telling the truth. But there may be a little truth to it. I remember Matthew was telling me last night, he watched the same David Goggins video I watched. He was like, if someone's bullying you about being fat, there's a little, you know, it is harsh and they're bullying you about it, but it may be a little true. And if it is true, become your best self. You can work at it. I was so fat in middle school, and I'm glad of the shape I am in today, and I'm just becoming better every day. And it's very possible for everyone, but it was just like that outside perspective.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really important, but it's like, I feel like though, although I had a very big head growing up, and I mean ego-wise.
Why do you have to clarify?
Because you made that face. I saw it in the corner of my eye. Okay, although I had a very big ego, and it was in very specific areas, my mom was able to be the checks and balances that kept me publicly humble, if that makes sense. And so I feel like as I got older, because of the checks and balances with my mom, I created a better habit and it flowed away. Obviously, like it's something you always work on, right? Even within our relationship, I realized there were cracks in my foundation where, you know, my ego was still slipping through and it was still like, no, you're right. You have the right answer, right? You don't have to listen to this, blah, 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 whatever I had to say. And it's like, you don't think it seeps into your life, but it does. And so it's kind of like the opposite, right? Like, but then the question is, right, maybe there was an imposter syndrome, but I was so good at faking the fact that I didn't care that it was like, I never paid attention to it, you know? Because at the end of the day, I kind of feel like, and I feel like it's definitely being raised in different situations. Like, I've always been the person that was like, you know, like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to make it happen. If I have to, I have to, whatever. Like, I don't care about everybody, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to take care of my siblings, whatever. And so I had to make it happen. There wasn't really an option. And so I think that's why I've loved being an entrepreneur, because it's fucking hard. But it's also that other side, right? It's like, you don't want to live in the hard all the time. Yeah. Right? Like, you have a choice to not always live in the hard. And I'm not saying not push yourself. I mean, you don't always have to choose the problem when the solution's right in front of you, but sometimes you look for the problem because you thrive in chaos. You know, does that make sense? Like, I feel like there are
create
times.
that problem.
Yeah, I feel like at times I'll create a problem just to fix it, and I'm like, why? Why?
Okay, that's reminding me of some things. Do you remember the moment I had like a long time ago, where we didn't have any clients or money, and I was like, I'm not a business owner. I'm just unemployed.
Oh my gosh! And I heard
that's when I felt like imposter syndrome. It was like, dude, I say I'm a business owner, but I haven't been doing shit. I've been working on myself, but nothing's coming in. And I started to get angry at myself.
And I was trying to sympathize with you, and I'm just adding this because it was funny, but I was like, well, I'm a contractor, so I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I'll share my income. Which actually we share everything, so.
Bastard. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for listening today. That was actually really fun.
Yeah, that was a fun podcast. It was so
funny talking to you.
At the last message I want to say is that imposter syndrome is real, but it doesn't have to last. It really is more about you refocusing your purpose. I feel like that's the easiest way to snap out of that stage. Or I like the way one of our old mentors used to talk about it, is what does he say? Stage, no.
Let it seep in. Let it seep in.
You're either, is it survival?
Survival mode? Manual automatic?
No.
What type of mode? Growth mode.
We'll just call it growth mode. Are you in growth mode or are you in poopy mode? Okay.
Anyways, imposter syndrome, hey, just know that you're growing. You can get out of it, and that's just by working harder and training more.
And if you feel like you don't feel it, which is okay, but keep that ego in check, because it's always good to stay humble and remind yourself that you always have space to grow, always have space to learn.
Gotta love the world, gotta love people.
Alrighty. Thanks, guys.